Well, if you're starting with me, yeah, because I'm Haitian, Haitian American,
Oh,
and
I didn't know that.
yeah, and so at the same time, nothing has happened in Haiti for the last 250 years without the imprimatur of the United States of America, be it the embargo put on them by Thomas Jefferson, or the invasion of them by Woodrow Wilson, or that time that President Clinton invaded, or that time that President Bush kidnapped the president and dropped him off in Africa, or that time when Joe Biden was president and the president of Haiti mysteriously got assassinated and everybody just seemed to not know what was going on despite all the DEA agents and having to be in Port-au-Prince at the same time. So this idea that America is not significantly, or if not completely responsible for the quote-unquote political upheaval, because whenever any kind of leader arose in Haiti that the U.S. was against, they mysteriously either died or went missing or were deposed. So I think, yes, America does owe the Haitian people and many other Central and South American countries for their meddling over the course of the last couple of decades. All these countries want is self-determination, and they're not allowed to have such because what's in America's best interest is not always in the best interest of the countries in their sphere of hegemonic power.
So yeah, I'll table the question. I'm sorry, I won't give you an answer because my thinking on this is basically, Jason, that we need a basic threshold for like, okay, at what, like how much chaos in anybody's country indicates that they are entitled to asylum in the United States. And I don't know what the answer to that question should be. But obviously once you start down that road, then there's a lot of countries, and especially a lot of countries where the United States has been involved, where that might eventually be justified. But I want to ask a question of Robert, because I wasn't aware of this particular thing. You said that after the assassination of the president of Haiti, there were DEA agents crawling all over the place. Is there a theory that the United States government assassinated him?
Not
Don't get us shadow banned, Vince.
No. I mean, when he just was like, man, Biden's president, the Haitian president was killed. DE agents were everywhere. I'm just asking questions.
I thought it was there were Central American guys that went in there.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing where you had a combination of Haitian gangs led by the G7 and their leader, Jimmy Barbecue Devalier, who was working alongside a Florida businessman.
His name was Duvalier?
I think it was Duvalier. I have to look it up. It's Jimmy Barbecue. Quote me on the Jimmy Barbecue part. There were also Colombian mercenaries who had gotten through, despite the fact that those waters are patrolled by the U.S., who carry out the assassination. Also, the fact that, all the security guards are alive and the president's dead is always really iffy. For things, that's usually not a good sign, where there's no gunshots except for the ones that went into the president. So there's all kinds of theories out there, but generally speaking, when something happens within the sphere of hegemonic control of the United States of America, 90 miles from one of your states, you have a serious international incident, you hear more about it than we heard about it in U.S. news. It kind of bubbled up for 2 days and then evaporated completely. So when we talk about political unrest within the region, the U.S.'s fingerprints for the last 75 to 100 years have always been on it. I think many people believe that currently.
But don't you think like part of this with Haitians is because, and I, forgive me if this sounds insensitive, but I think when we think of Haiti, we think it's one thing after another. Like Haiti is always experiencing some sort of upheaval, tragedy, natural disaster. That's what desensitized the American media to Moïse's assassination.
Well, it's a concept called Haiti fatigue, but it's completely engineered by Western press. If all you did were think about Chicago, for example. You know how the calling card on the right, whenever something happens, is, well, what about Chicago? Because it's almost as if you want to make it seem like the entire city is this Mad Max style war zone. Well, you go there, you go to the lake, you go to Magnificent Mile, you take pictures by the Jelly Bean, you eat Italian beef, you go to a Cubs or White Sox game, things are fine. Similar to Haiti, if the only thing that you're ever going to report on are all the terrible things that happen, you put this image out there that only terrible things happen, which negates tourism, negates foreign investment, negates expatriation. So it turns into a snowball effect around that.